I played Dragon Age The Veilguard recently, and it's an incredible RPG where you dive into a huge world full of magic, deep lore, and complex characters. The story is so well written that it kept me wanting to explore every corner and talk to every character. I really enjoyed the strategic combat, where you can mix spells and attacks to create powerful combos. The graphics look beautiful, and the voice acting is top notch, bringing the characters to life. The only downside is that the pacing can feel slow at times, and some side quests are a bit repetitive. Still, it's an unforgettable journey that's definitely worth your time. It's just one of those games that stays with you long after you stop playing. Stellar Blade is an action RPG set in a futuristic world, and it's all about fast-paced combat and exploring beautifully designed environments. The visuals are absolutely stunning, and the combat feels smooth and satisfying, especially with all the cool moves and combos you can pull off. I really enjoyed the boss fights, which were challenging but not unfair, and they kept me on my toes. However, the story felt a bit shallow, and I didn't connect much with the characters, which was a little disappointing. Still, if you love action games with great visuals and fluid combat, it's definitely worth checking out. It's one of those games that's just fun to play, even if the story isn't the strongest. Dead Island 2 is a hilarious, gore-filled sequel that doesn't take itself seriously, and that's part of its charm. Set in a stunningly detailed and absurd version of LA, the game boasts ridiculously good graphics that make its blood-soaked melee combat and apocalyptic setting pop. You'll hack, slash, and drop kick your way through zombie hordes as one of 6 playable characters. The story feels like a cheesy B-movie with sarcastic writing, colorful characters, and over-the-top quests, like slaying zombies for a clout-chasing influencer or fighting bee-infested undead. While combat starts strong with modded melee weapons and superhuman abilities, its repetitive nature and lackluster guns fall short. Multiplayer adds much-needed fun, though technical bugs and an unpolished feel detract from the experience. Dead Island 2 may not reinvent the zombie genre, but its humor, irreverent tone, gorgeous visuals, and co-op chaos make it worth a bloody good time. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a side-scrolling action platformer that brings back the classic feel of the old games but with a fresh, modern look. It mixes fast-paced combat with clever puzzles and platforming challenges, making each level feel really exciting. I was really impressed by how smooth the movement feels, especially when chaining jumps and wall runs together. The boss fights are fun and require some strategy, but some of them felt a bit too easy. The art style is beautiful, with vibrant colors that make the world feel alive. Even though some of the puzzles were a little repetitive, the combat and platforming kept me hooked. I recently tried Empire of the Ants, which is a strategy game about managing an ant colony, gathering resources, expanding tunnels, and defending against threats. I loved the attention to detail, from the way the ants move to the realistic environments that make you feel like you're actually in their tiny world. The strategy elements are pretty deep, letting you plan out your colony's growth and defense, but I did find the controls a bit tricky at times, which could be a little frustrating. Even so, it's such a unique and immersive experience. If you're looking for a different kind of strategy game, this one's definitely worth a shot. I played Rise of the Ronin recently, and honestly, it felt like stepping into a wild samurai movie, where you get to decide everything. This is an open-world action game where you're a Ronin, a masterless samurai, and you're caught right in the middle of a big fight in Japan. The fighting is really cool. Like, you can switch between different sword styles and it feels super smooth, but sometimes the story felt a bit all over the place, like it was trying to do too much. Exploring the world is fun, there's lots to see, but some of the side quests were a bit repetitive. You know, just go here, hit this, come back. Still swinging your sword and feeling like a badass Ronin, that's where this game really shines. Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl throws you into a harsh and unforgiving world where survival is key. Explore the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, a place filled with dangerous mutants, deadly anomalies, and other stalkers all competing for survival. You'll need to scavenge for supplies, manage your resources, and make tough choices to stay alive in this unforgiving environment. The game features a massive open world with dynamic weather and day-night cycles that create a truly immersive experience. Uncover the secrets of the zone, complete dangerous missions, and encounter memorable characters as you explore this atmospheric and captivating world. This game is not for the faint of heart, but if you're looking for a challenging and rewarding survival experience, this game is a must-play. Dragon's Dogma 2 is an amazing action RPG that throws you into a huge open world filled with mythical creatures and dangerous quests where you can climb on monsters and really feel the impact of your attacks. You can create your own character and recruit companions called pawns to help you in battle, which adds a really cool layer of strategy to the gameplay. The combat is fast-paced and exciting with tons of different skills and abilities to learn and master. Plus, the world is just stunning with beautiful environments and a day-night cycle that makes it feel truly alive. While some of the quests can be a bit repetitive and the story can be a little confusing at times, Dragon's Dogma 2 is still an incredible adventure that any fan of action RPGs should definitely check out.
Watch out! On it!
Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is an action-packed fighting game that lets you relive all the epic battles from the Dragon Ball universe. And what I really like is how true it stays to the anime with all the flashy moves, destructible environments, and insane power-ups that make every fight feel just as intense as in the show. But even though the combat is fun and fast-paced, sometimes the controls feel a bit clunky, especially when you're trying to pull off complex combos. And while the character roster is massive, it feels like some characters don't have enough unique moves to stand out. But overall, if you're a Dragon Ball fan, you're definitely going to enjoy this game.
The place is coming down!
Okay.
Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a big adventure game where you play as Indiana Jones, exploring cool places and finding ancient secrets. It's like being in your own indie movie. You get to use his whip, solve puzzles, and fight bad guys, which is really fun. The whip mechanics are surprisingly versatile, letting you swing, grapple, and even disarm enemies in creative ways. Sometimes, though, the puzzles can be a bit tricky, and some parts of the game feel a bit slow. But honestly, the feeling of exploring ancient ruins and finding hidden treasures is really exciting. Plus, the way the game captures the feel of the movies is really well done. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth is a turn-based RPG that tells an emotional story filled with humor, and it does an amazing job of balancing serious moments with laugh-out-loud comedy. The story is really engaging, and the characters are so charming and relatable that you get invested in their journey. The combat system is strategic and fun, although the pacing can slow down a bit in longer battles. But there's so much to do with all the side quests and minigames that the world feels really alive and exciting to explore. It's definitely a must-play if you're into story-rich RPGs. Banisher's Ghost of New Eden is an action-adventure game that follows two ghost hunters who fight spirits while dealing with a tragic love story, and it creates a really emotional and immersive experience. The narrative is deep and gripping, with tough choices that actually impact the story, making you feel invested in the characters. The combat is fast-paced and fun, but it can get a bit repetitive after a while. The atmosphere and visuals are stunning, really bringing the eerie world to life. If you like story-driven games with emotional twists, it's definitely worth checking out.
Let's get this over with.
Unicorn Overlord is a tactical RPG set in a beautiful fantasy world where you lead armies and make story choices that shape the world around you.
Be safe.
I loved the art style and the strategic combat that lets you experiment with different unit types. The story is engaging, and the characters are pretty memorable, which kept me invested in what would happen next. I did feel like the pacing was slow at times, but the rich story and strategic gameplay made up for it. It's definitely worth playing if you enjoy tactical games with deep storytelling.
So good to see you again. You lost consciousness after awakening to your power.
Persona 3 Reload is a remake of the classic JRPG that mixes dungeon crawling with social simulation, where you fight shadows at night and build friendships by day. The graphics look fantastic, and the combat feels much more polished with smoother mechanics and updated visuals. I loved how they stayed true to the emotional story and complex characters that made the original so memorable. But I did miss some of the extra content from previous versions, which was a little disappointing. Still, the mix of strategic combat and storytelling is so good that it's hard to put down. It's definitely worth playing if you love story-driven RPGs. If you're enjoying the video and want to support a growing channel, then please do subscribe and hit the bell icon.
Get some! Get some!
Helldivers 2 is a tactical co-op shooter where you and your squad take on dangerous missions against alien enemies in unpredictable environments. The game does a great job of blending fast-paced combat with strategic gameplay. And I loved how every mission felt different depending on how well you work together. While the friendly fire mechanic adds a nice challenge, the difficulty can feel a bit much sometimes, and the missions don't always offer enough variety. However, if you enjoy games that test your teamwork and coordination, this one's definitely worth a try.
Ashley, run!
Resident Evil 4 Remake takes the survival horror masterpiece and elevates it to a whole new level with stunning visuals and modernized gameplay. Step back into the shoes of Leon S. Kennedy as he faces hordes of Ganados in a truly terrifying and immersive experience. The environments are incredibly detailed and atmospheric, from the eerie village to the imposing castle and the terrifying island.
One down.
The combat is intense and visceral, with brutal melee attacks and satisfying gunplay that will keep you on your toes. You'll need to use every weapon in your arsenal and strategically manage your resources to survive the onslaught of enemies. The remake also introduces new features like side quests and expanded areas, giving you even more to explore and discover. This game is a thrilling and terrifying adventure that perfectly captures the spirit of the original while delivering a fresh and unforgettable experience. Marvel Rivals is a fighting game that brings together Marvel's most famous heroes and villains in exciting one-on-one battles with flashy moves and powerful abilities. The combat is fast-paced and feels really satisfying, especially when you pull off special moves. The graphics are fantastic and the voice acting is spot on, really bringing the characters to life. I had a lot of fun playing through the story mode, but it ended sooner than I expected, and I was left wanting more. The multiplayer is fun, but could use some tweaks for better balance. Even with these minor flaws, it's a must-play for Marvel fans. It's one of those games that's perfect for quick matches or long play sessions.
That's 3! Wow, 4 in a row! 5! That's
Time to wake up, Nightingale.
Withering Rooms is a horror adventure game where you explore a creepy mansion filled with terrifying creatures and tricky puzzles. And what I found really interesting was how the game keeps changing its environment, making each area feel new and unsettling, and the sound design is really good at building tension. But the controls can be frustrating at times, especially when you're trying to get away from enemies. And the story is a bit hard to follow. But even with its flaws, the game does a great job at creating a spooky atmosphere. So if you love horror games, you might want to check this one out. So I tried Nine Sols recently and was really impressed by how well it combines fast-paced action and platforming with a story inspired by Asian mythology. I absolutely loved the hand-drawn art style that gives the game a really unique look. The combat is so much fun with the mix of swordplay and deflection mechanics that make every fight feel intense, but I did find some of the platforming parts to be a bit tricky because they require really precise jumps. The story is good, but it does feel like it drags in some places, but even with these small issues, I think it's a really solid game that's worth checking out if you like action platformers. When Cyberpunk launched in December 2020, it was a technical disaster, plagued by bugs, crashes, and glitches, leading to Sony removing it from the PlayStation Store. By 2022, the game was patched, but its design and gameplay issues still lingered, leaving me skeptical about its potential. Although the 2.0 update has turned it into a much improved game, Night City is now bursting with life, thanks to denser crowds, enhanced NPC AI, and a more interactive environment that makes it feel like a true futuristic megacity. The revamped police system adds excitement with dynamic chases and a real sense of threat. RPG mechanics have been completely overhauled, offering a more rewarding progression system that allows for diverse character builds. Combat and stealth are now a lot more fun, with smoother, more engaging gameplay. Overall, the game now delivers a far more polished and enjoyable experience.
Goddamn terrorist!